At MyPatha, we help middle and high school teachers by building tools that make their lives easier. We also create content that shares powerful philosophies about work and life to help all humans, students and non, to build better ones themselves. If you know a teacher or school leader, please share mypatha.com. And if you know a student, please share this video, which has so many gems about how to build a good life.
Our goal is to lay out the fact that like everyone has a path, and sometimes people are afraid. One of the students that I taught, when asked by another teacher what is his biggest fear, said not being successful. So I think that there are a lot of kids who like they're very focused on making money, figuring out like how are they going to make things work, and we're in a particularly precarious world right now. And so one of our goals is to outline the fact that everyone has a path and that there are opportunities that can be leveraged and what it takes to get there, right? Both from like an internal fortitude, strength, like ability, training, focus standpoint, and from a, hey, these are ways that you can get support, these are opportunities, so that you know and can figure out what inspires you. And so I in particular wanted to talk with you because you've had a really extensive career already, and you've explored many industries that aren't frequently discussed. And so I thought it'd be fantastic to get your perspective to the teachers and students that will be listening in, so that they can take that knowledge of the additional paths to success. So I'd like to start there. Mr. F, can you share who you are and your definition of success?
Oh, thank you for the introduction. I am a prior service member, military veteran, Army veteran, and a former architectural student and design business operator. And I am currently a longshoreman, which is a machine operator. And in life, I have always had more than one job. So I've done things like from driving delivery trucks, driving a city bus, a Greyhound bus. I went and got my CDL out of after high school before I went to the military, and therefore I was able to drive all sorts of different vehicles. I did security. I've managed cell phone stores. I've done a whole lot of different things. I was even a welder at one point in time. So for me, I would say having Caribbean parents, having that background where you're frequently asked, when you bring home good grades, one of the first things they ask is why not 100%, right? So I come from that era, and I have always done everything that I can do to ensure victory, I would say. And victory to me means peace. Success is victory for me. Growing up, I'd say to paraphrase, growing up poor, let's say, right? Sort of like a treadmill, you're always looking for peace and stability. And the reality of the world to me was very apparent, as simple as you don't work, you don't eat, right? And I saw people older than me in different situations and circumstances. And just like one of your students that you mentioned, fear of failure, right? I thought to myself when I was younger, what happens if I fall down and hurt myself? I'm working 2 or 3, jobs, and I'm very outgoing, but I was looking for an opportunity that would stick. And just like young people today, you don't know any better, so you're looking for the golden ticket, the answer, or the one solution that will, make the equation of you being disadvantaged and poor, and that will make your whole struggle make sense. And the reality is, it's a combination of things. Victory, winning, success is a combination of preparation and as preparation and fortitude, right? And I've learned to some extent, or to a great extent, a lot of that requires faith. No matter how you can break it down in a flow chart, waking up early, eating your breakfast, taking your vitamins, being ready to do whatever task it is, especially when you're young and unsure of what the day holds. But being ready is a whole big part of it. But the mental half of it is saying to yourself that I am going to do everything within my power within a 24-hour day to ensure that everything in my life moves forward. And there's a perspective of, the glass half full, or, it's half empty. I sort of look at things this way. No one is perfect, but you'll find that there are some good things that you do in a day, and there are some bad things. You might make mistakes, but I try to focus on the things that I did do right. I'm going to double down on those things, right? And every day I try to add one more thing to the list of things that I am doing right. And it's a cumulative effect. So if I push for 100% of something, it's a thin line where you don't want to beat yourself up for not getting 100%. But if you push for 100%, or let's say perfection, right? I want to hit all my marks today, be everywhere I'm supposed to be on time, absorb whatever information, be responsible for myself. If you can do those things to the best of your ability, put the rest in God's hands, is what I say, right? Mm. And with that being said, whatever happens next or the following day, I feel good about the effort that I put in as a human being. When I know to myself, I've done every single thing that I can do. Showed up on time, I look sharp, my mind is sharp. If it was a job interview, I did a little bit of research on the job. I went and watched some YouTube videos, a day in the life of a delivery driver, whatever this is, right? I even went out of my way on a weekend. Instead of hanging out, I went and spoke to some individuals that might be involved in the different fields. And I was able to gain access to mentors in my field once I started on the path of, let's say, architecture, when I went to school for architecture. So now I picked architecture because I was good at sketching, and I never saw myself as an architect because I'm not good at math. Let's say I doubted myself. Most people, the average person would say like, hey, you're really good at math, but compared to engineers, let's just say when you're in a room of your peers in your field, I'm not the best at certain things. And I, sort of doubted myself for a long time. And I realized once I took the step and made the attempt via a recommendation from Uncle Victor, right, who is, to put his name out there, is one of the older people that saw me looking for more. He saw my artwork, my sketches, and recommended that I went to school for it. I didn't have a portfolio for architecture work. I had a portfolio of sketches, but I had to complete a portfolio in order to apply for an official architecture program. So Uncle Victor told me, he said, hey, there's a smaller 2-year school called IDC. You attend it. If you stick with the program for a year or two, you can come work for me as your first job. And that's exactly what I did. And when I got there, I, had the ideal of an architect being the idea person. You're in this storefront with lots of beautiful light shining in. You got a pencil over your ear. You sort of have this Cosby life. And Cosby liked the show. Before all the more modern drama that he's been into, the wholesome kind of thing, two
Yeah.
professionals. So I thought that that's what it would be like. But when I got there, I was greatly, I'd say, disappointed with the fact that the business of design uh, didn't jive with the inspirational part of design. And it was sort of crushing at first. But what I learned to do was pivot. And even though my strong suit wasn't in the design area, let's just say, coming up with beautiful designs. Some of my friends, they have things that are in museums, let's say. In my experience in architecture, the door that was open to me was compliance. So if there's a team of architects and the principal, like Uncle Victor, who's been in the game for like 30 years, you work for him, he's got all the great ideas. He sits with the clients in a three-piece suit. Guys like me, I wasn't even a draftsman because there were people that drafted faster than me, even though I was competent. What I had was the gift of gab, and I always read a lot. So I knew zoning and I knew how to, and compliance as far as submitting permits to the city and, the Environmental Protection Board. So in order to file these, to get whatever design is we finalize, things have to be legalized and permitted, right? Insurances and documents have to go back and forth between contractors. So I was more useful in that aspect, which was kind of disappointing. But that was the lane that the Lord provided me. And once I leaned into the area, inspections, writing reports and things like that, I was sort of able to stand shoulder to shoulder with some of my mentors, not only helping them on jobs, but I was able to open my own business in providing these services for the professionals. I got quite a few licenses along the way as well, concrete testing, fire safety testing, um, filing representative. These are all smaller licenses that are required in order to get a job permitted and to actually get a construction job started. So I guess I could summarize it by saying, in the face of not knowing, right, and putting all your effort into something, you have to have faith. And oftentimes, the 2 steps ahead won't be revealed unto you until you take the first step in a direction, right? So that's where the faith has to come in. Take a step towards whatever that is, and then you'll see more options open up in front of you. But if you sit at the doorway speculating what's on the next side, it's sort of like the allegory of the cave, right? You're looking at shadows on the wall and you can speculate your whole life until you step outside, right? And you're like, wow, it's not what I thought it was. I might be surprised, I might be disappointed, but understand that these are also more options. And that's what continues to happen. And it's a snowball effect. You may not end up in a place that you visually thought it would look like. Like I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to argue cases on TV, like some show. But you might be really good at investigation. You might be really good at archiving or financial investigation, or a more boring aspect to someone who might aspire to be in a court in front of TV, locking up famous people, let's say. You might be much better at contract law, right? That may pay your bills. So just understand that your perception of victory or success may hold you back from stepping through doors that might not seem as glamorous or whatever it is. And to sort of tie in my experience in the architectural field, which I guess can be a synopsis of this example, is again, standing shoulder to shoulder with some of my mentors at one point. I was a well-respected colleague at some point in time, and I was able to hire employees, which happened to be some of my classmates. They were younger, a little bit younger than me, but I ended up hiring them, and I was able to provide for myself. And along the way, because I was prior service military as a veteran, this job, union job, which I operate machines, was offered to me, which has awesome benefits. So for people that know me and sort of like know a little bit of my path, there were so many times where it would be hard to say, like, how do all of these different things tie in, right? And I'm at the point in time in my life where everything that I've done in that positive spirit, it all makes sense. The fact that I didn't know what I wanted to do after high school. I knew that I didn't want to do knucklehead stuff and get in trouble. I knew that I didn't want to do anything risky. I knew that I've had several jobs and I didn't want to just keep working job after job. And I said, if I join the military, they'll give me free training, medical benefits. I can be sort of off my parents' dime. I'll have some place to live on my own. I can totally emancipate myself. And I didn't know what the future held, but I took that step as the most obviously positive thing I could do to give a huge and permanent deliberate change to what I felt I needed a 180. That was the biggest 180 I could find at the time. So that's what I did. And I did the architecture thing, which didn't help me in my military service, but ultimately, it all came together because I got this job and I'm able to buy my own properties and fund my own projects and work with my brother in his hedge fund. So,
Yeah, huge. So many gems there. We don't often hear the fact that like where we end up is not necessarily like the glamorous vision that we come up with or that we picture. And I think that we should be told that so much more frequently, right? About the like these things build on one another, and you just need to be consistent and figure out what's good, what is helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, the statement like, what can I do to help, right? How can I be helpful, right? Like is I think the thing that will continue to tell us what we can do even as things change, right?
Yeah.
Like we're in where things are not consistent. So it's just like, okay, what do people need and what can I do? And sure, like what do they need to see from me, right? Like the certifications, etc. That you'll slowly build up, right?
As far as like, I would say some action bullet points, I would refer to my experience in design again. And I would say this, part of the reason that I had the respect of my professors and I was able to work for them was because I was there before class started and I was there asking them questions in no hurry to leave when the class ended. And I would sit there like a fanboy, like people love basketball. They were sitting there talking to Michael Jordan and asking him questions about where he went to school and what's he up to now. And I would sit there and talk with my professors about what they were working on. And I would be amazed. And there were times where I would go on the weekend and go and visit them on their job sites. And they'd be surprised that I pulled up. I'd bring them coffee. I would talk with them. Again, no rush. People who are older, you'll be surprised. They love talking about their life. Because as you get older, you have a lot of experiences and young people don't want to, especially their kids don't really want to hear them talk like, oh, it's the same old. So they love to share. And until I made investments like that with my own time, I was able to like gain their respect. Like, I'm going to show up. And I think what's important too is whatever field you want to be into, you need to understand how money is made. And then you can start from there. As far as being helpful, you need to understand what it takes to get paid in any field. And then you can pick one of those things. In my advice, my opinion, I think once you figure out how a business or an industry makes money, I would say pick a position where you can get paid and you're not liable with the least amount of liability in whatever project. So let's say in a doctor's office with this example, everybody would want to be a doctor, right? But what they don't understand is that that doctor has to have millions of dollars in insurance in case they get sued, right? They're responsible for people who work under them, right? Now, let's say an anesthesiologist, right? Which I know I have a few friends that do things like that. They can make over 100,000, some close to 200,000, which is not necessarily $500,000 like a surgeon might make. But you may think to yourself, that $500,000 that that doctor is making, they didn't make that immediately. It took them like 20 years to get that. That person who is doing the anesthesia, they may have went to school for half the time, and they're making $200,000 less, but it took them half the time, and they make a little bit less. But how much do you really need? And the doctors that are making $500,000, they have to work over the next 10 or 20 years just to pay back the money for the loan. So you may say to yourself, like, could you live with $200,000 or $250,000 and have your weekends? Or do you want $500,000 and people are calling you round the clock, right? And you're responsible and liable for a bunch of people. So that's sort of the thing that I looked at. And in my business, architecture, I realized I didn't need to be the principal, the architect on the job, in order to make money and contribute my ideas to the project. And I'm not responsible if things go bad. Oh, just saying. I know what it's like to be responsible for other people, and it's not fun, right? You got to be built for that stuff. You know, it's like gambling at Vegas.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I think this point about being close or understanding how the money is made, right? Like, I think that actually led you to make a change, right? Transition from architecture. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So understanding how money was made led me to doing more inspections, right? So again, there are lots of playing the role of the architect. I saw where the money went in the budget. And I said to myself, there are essential people to a project that aren't really bound by, they're not on the original contract between the owner and designer, for this 200, if there's a job and the architect is charging $200,000, right? But then out of that 200,000, the architect has to pay certain trades. And these other trades that they pay, they get paid whether the building goes up or not for testing and reporting and things like that. So their job is, let's say I come out to test, to do a concrete test, $1,600, and it's based on the size of the project, right? But let's just say it's $1,600 I'm charging to come out and observe you pour concrete and write a little report and certify it. Now, I get paid that money for my report, whether you pass the inspection or not, right? And because that's something that's licensed and not many people are aware of, and they might be in school for architecture or construction management, I can go out and plan my day of doing a bunch of concrete testing, right? And I'm just that guy making $1,600 a whack, let's just say, and do it 3 times for the day. And that'll be what? Over $4,000 or $5,000 I can do in a week, let's just say. And the more you do it, the faster you'll get at writing these reports and things like that, right? And the more observant you get, you'll turn those jobs over quicker. And that's sort of how you make more money as an independent contractor working alongside these companies. And one of the things that I found was that I made it easier to work with these guys because I wasn't asking for a job, right? I think maybe that's something I should focus in on, because once I understood how money was made And I was like, Victor, for example, this $200,000 job. I was like, hey, Victor, not only are we like family, but I have a license to perform this aspect of your job that I know you need performed, right? You have a relationship with a contractor that does it. I checked online for $2,000. Hey, Uncle Victor, I'll do it for 1,000. I'll make you some money, and as a new person, I'll put 1,000 in my pocket. I didn't ask you for a job that equals benefits or for you to create a program for me to eat, right? Because that's what you're asking someone when you're asking for a job, right? Create a role for me to play that contributes toward a paycheck, towards a check getting cut, right? But me, I didn't ask any of that. I observed and saw what it takes for them to get paid. And I saw that there were different aspects. And I asked myself, what can I do? And I went out and got these licenses and I offered my services to these same professors. And I offered it at a price that I knew was below market rate because I didn't have a big office or a big home. I didn't have any employees. It was just me. So I was able to generate cash and create a business off of doing that, right? So they didn't have to tell me how the business worked or how they made money. They didn't have to, deal with someone who wanted a job, let's say, and people like, hey, you make, $10,000 a day. Why can't I have this or have that? It's like you have to understand that for every job, as it were, there are different roles that need to be played, and there's a set budget for that job, whether you work for the city or anything else. And certain amounts, certain percentages of that budget is allotted for certain tasks to be performed. So if you know what that price list is of these different tasks that need to be performed and roughly how much of the budget is going towards that task, you would say to yourself, if I want to make this amount of money, I need to perform the task that commiserates with that portion of the budget. Mm-hmm. Or maybe I can pick two different roles that equals that amount, right? I can be the anesthesiologist and I can be the, take blood as well. I don't, be an x-ray tech and I can be a blood tech, which will equal this amount. And I can still play a role in a hospital, gain experience, gain mentors and stuff on my way. I wanted to be a doctor, but, I'm making money, right? I'm in the field and I don't have to have a whole bunch of insurance like a doctor. When somebody has a faulty surgery or something, I'm not the one to get sued or be responsible. I go home at 6 p.m. and I have my weekends to myself, right? So just to show you how that strategy works across different fields. And that's what I was able to do by doing my own research, knowing how money is made, looking at the different roles and doing a little bit of market research to see what they get paid and what the turnover is, right? Mm-hmm. There were some people that got that 1,600, but every 6 hours, their testing had to be recertified, right? Like if you're involved with some kinds of engineering, deal with tanks. Anytime you see a tank that has goods inside of it, an air tester has to come out and certify the air quality for people to go and do work down inside the tank for repairs or whatever it is. And the air quality changes over time, right? Even with asbestos, the air quality changes over time. So you're being paid to monitor the air quality and just basically report on it. And every certain amount of hours, you have to come out. So some of these people, these professionals, had to get this money repetitively based on the duration of the job. And I didn't really know that. I thought it was just, why not make 200,000 as the principal architect and stuff? And I was like, we're paying this guy, because I saw the budget, we're paying this guy $3,000 a day for the next 4 weeks for the phase of construction. And then he's coming back to do some other type of testing. And he's just, thumbs up and smiling while I'm running around stressed out about things getting finished and this, violations from the city and things like that. I was like, it's crazy.
That's wild. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I think like that's exactly a light bulb, right? That is an insight, right? That there's the roles that we talk about, right? You see, the principal architect, the doctor, right? Mm-hmm. The lawyer in the courtroom, right? But there are so many things, like there are details in every single space that require additional skill sets, right?
Correct.
That compensate you very, very well. But we often talk about the things that are most visible and not the things on the ground, right? So like once you actually get to see, okay, there's someone who tests the air quality every 6 hours and they're earning $3,000 a day when they get a job, right? Like sometimes there's not, there are other dynamics. There's just maybe 4 jobs a year that they're landing, right? But that's still like fantastic compensation for that work and for that skill set, right? And it's contributing to the overall structure, right? Which, or the collaboration is another maybe word here. There are so many people that collaborate to get the job done, right? To build there's many facets of it. The compliance angle, right? Like needing to ensure safety, right? Like the engineer who's looking at the drawing to ensure that, again, this building isn't going to fall down. The person who's acquiring the material, right? So many different roles that have little things in them that, may actually pique your interest, right? As a person who's entering space, right? That we should kind of leave space for discovering and for knowing that, hey, we will come to learn that about these other opportunities in the spaces that we're interested in, if we just give ourselves the time to like take each of those steps that you're saying, like show up every day, do the research, get to know people, right? Even just through conversations, like you don't need to bang your head against the wall, through having conversations with people, you come to learn things and you can come to figure out how you get yourself to that place of peace and stability.
Yeah.
That's huge. Cool. Okay. Next question. So there is often a statement that like high school education, grades 9 through 12, isn't the thing that sets you up for success in the working world. What's your perception of that statement?
Well, when I was in high school, it's a totally different time and era. And I guess to sort of draw a clear line, when I was in school, they had writing class, right? They had classes like social studies. They had shop classes, and sports was available even in the most, say, the poorest school, but most schools had some type of music program to expose you to more things other than, doctor, lawyer, things like that. You could be in a print shop, you could be working in a auto mechanic, a shop class. There were home economic classes to actually teach you how to take care of yourself and boil macaroni on a stove or things like that. So there was a level of practical skills being taught in school. And I think that is the disconnect in, this generation or newer generations thinking that learning AI is the key to everything. And I'm like, that's an end product or byproduct. And the platform you're standing on has been built with elbow grease, right? Your dad who fixed the car is what pays the lights for you to then be trading coins or whatever it is you're talking about, right? So if you want to establish a foundation that will allow you to do what you want to do, you have to focus on things that you're good at first and foremost, so you can do what you want to do later. And I think that's not what's taught, even in theory. That's not what children expect. They expect to, get a degree and get a great job in tech or one of these places and, have things work out. But I think that in my generation, and I talked about the writing classes too, things that I didn't think were very important. Now that I, speak with my niece and younger kids, and I'm like, you guys don't know how to write with a pen? Like they write like chicken scratch. And I'm not trying to insult them. I'm like, wow, we used to have writing class to practice your writing, to practice your reading and comprehension. And I was like, I don't think that And mind you, I say it was very basic and fundamental. All schools had that. So I think that's the difference too in what they have available to the children and what the children are expecting just out of life and out of the workforce and stuff. Uh, I think most of them expect to be, on that end user side where they're using AI products to, I don't know what most of it does. I don't want to get on an old guy rant about AI, but I commonly tell my brothers and sisters when I see the fake videos, the babies dancing, and they do the deep seek and all of those different videos, I'm like, wow, our country hedged a lot of the future on investing in AI, but it doesn't produce anything. It doesn't create any jobs. Nothing tangible is manufactured from it. So not only from a business aspect, it being a bad investment, it's a bad investment, in my opinion, of your time. So if you were to be, with the Caribbean mindset that was sort of like, instilled in me, you had to be something like a nurse, a mechanic, or something. Your parents insisted that you do something that makes money, and then you do whatever you want to do, right? If you can get through that. And I think that mentality in itself is lost. These kids don't know what to do. If they can't work for Google, I guess they'll just be on welfare, I guess. I'm like, even to my nephew, go and learn how to fix a car. There are tons of those things on the street. You will never go broke. So I think that that's what's gone. Trade schools, I guess, if I could say that. There's schools like is it Clara Barton across the street from Prospect Heights in Brooklyn. And for example, you could be in that high school and take extra classes that would the extra classes would count as credits towards a nursing degree, right? Which that format is very useful because a lot of young men and ladies come out of high school and they can go right for some level of certification and be 18 years old and be doing home health aid work and stuff, getting 16 or 18 bucks an hour. That's a formula that works, I think, and that's not common. So if you're not getting that in school, you have to sort of take the initiative to do that on your own and sort of like put yourself in unpaid internships. Like people who have things that you want to do, you're going to have to go and offer your time and be like, treat them like they're Michael Jordan or one of those guys, whatever music artist that you love, 50 Cent, I'm going to follow him around. I'm going to show up at wherever he's shooting his movies or doing whatever. I'm going to show up and just buy him coffee and I don't want a job. I just want to make your life easy. Like, what do you need in a day? How does 50 Cent make money? How it, whatever it is about, you kind of want to be all over it, right? And I relate the way people are fanatic about sports and entertainment. If you can have that mentality about whatever field that you're into and know all the top shooters in, like basketball, I know all the number one shooters on the East Coast, and I know this guy's stats when he went to school, what his high school average was. If you're into your field to that extent, you can't lose.
Yeah. Wow.
I wanted to know who the top people were, Black people in construction in New York City. I wanted to learn how much, wow, this is amazing. How much did this guy charge? How much did this guy charge? How much you have to pay employees? I just wanted to know. And I just hung around these people and they told me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How about the academic side of high school, right? So I think that there's been a shift, definitely, like you're saying, away from kind of preparing people for the trades, and there's been a shift away from just the home basics, just how to cook a little bit of food for yourself, which I think we do need those things. And a shift towards okay, you need to be good at algebra. You need to take this American history course, this world history course, chemistry, biology. What's your thought on the shift in focus to those subjects?
Yeah. Um, just like a social studies class will propose something that's in the news, and not to be too political, but just to ask you what your opinion is, to let young people talk about things that are going on in the world around them, to sort of help understand all perspectives of the issue. It's sort of like, I'm a fan of philosophy. And I would say in college, I was really good at social studies because I love history and culture just in general, the things that shape the world and how we got where we're at, right, as human beings is very intriguing to me. And so philosophy, along with, so I'd say social science, the science of how people relate, and philosophy helped me a lot to, think about my place in all of it. Because some people are into information, and I see a lot of people with that mean well, they get information overload, right? And they're like, oh, there's so many things happen in the world. What can we do? What can we do? And I'm like, bro, you can go to sleep on time, eat your vitamins, get up on time, fix your bed, iron your clothes, and be ready for whatever the day has for you. That is all you can do. Say your prayers and just be ready to work. That's the actual answer to what's happening in Iran and all this other stuff. All due respect, and my heart goes out to anybody who is dying in any conflict. However, how does that relate to me as a human being, a young Black person, or whatever it is that you are in your own life? And if anything, you should take from those things that might seem overwhelming is that life is short, life is finite, and you should see that your life isn't that bad. And you should pay more attention to enjoying the details of it and refining your life. It's not an outward thing, it's an inward thing, right? Being the best that you can be at whatever God puts in front of you is the mentality that you should have, taking pride in anything that you do, opening that door, because people will see you and people respond to that attitude. I can't say enough how many times I didn't know what was next for me, right? In a very literal sense at times too. And I may have had a little job or a little something. And in the same way, when people say like, you always find a job when you have a job, another job when you're already working, right? It's that mentality, because that theory doesn't work if you're miserable at your station, right? That's a repelling force, being miserable, right? But if people see you do that task, and people who have money and wealth, you'd be surprised, they know what it's like to start out at the bottom. So when you're opening that door with a smile on your face and paying attention to the details and asking them how their day was, and I saw this, report, I hope you're okay, your family's okay, something happened in Iran and I know your family, I pay attention. And even though I just opened the door, I love what I do. I love meeting people. And you come there with that attitude, like that is what people see. And when people do have money, you'll be surprised. It's not only about confidence, it's about dealing with people you can trust. Because contracts mean nothing. I've seen people get screwed with the tightest contracts. So people would rather have and train and converse with or open themselves up to people who are genuine. And you can't be genuine if you show up to that job that's not what you really wanted and stuff with a bad attitude. You're not going to attract anybody to you that way. So it's about showing up and saying like, look, it's all about steps and taking the next step. If God didn't make me the president of this organization, right now I'm just a doorman, right? I'm going to do whatever this is with pride, look my best, be sharp, show with a smile on my face, and be glad for the opportunity to just be here and not be upset that God didn't put me up where I wanted to. I graduated and I'm not running this firm yet. I'm working in the mailroom or whatever. Bro, that's your portion and your test. You should do that with a smile on your face. And when people who are higher up are looking for someone to promote or to have or next to them or to rely on, they're not necessarily going to look for the smartest person. They're going to look for the most reliable person and the most honest person, right? And honesty plays out like this. When it's okay to say when you don't know something versus somebody who's a know-it-all that will go and mess things up. I've heard that several times before. Like, I like you because you let me know when you don't know something and you have to get back to me about something, because oftentimes people will tell me what I want to hear and they waste my time and my money, right? That's what they run into a lot. And that's the tires to the rubber to the where the rubber meets the road, right? So you project all of those things, and that's what people want to have around them. You can be confident, but you're just miserable to be around. And that's a social aspect of it, just being positive, in the face of not knowing, right? Having faith in the fact that you show up and do a great job, that God is going to bless you. People are going to see you in your life. You could be on the train smiling from the good work that you did at your job. That might not be much. And you never know where you're going to run into somebody. I would go to to Thanksgiving and, just to be around people who are positive and, the family and stuff. And just casually speaking with Uncle Victor, we liked each other. We sort of like talking about, I like listening to his stories and looking at examples of some of his artwork and stuff, because I was an artist. So I liked some of his art. I made some comments on his art, and he's like, wow, I, didn't know you were thinking about that and stuff. And I was like, yeah, sketch. And then he said, I'd love to just see your artwork or whatever. And the following year, I brought my portfolio of personal sketches, and he's like, wow, this looks like you measured things and it looks like drafting. Like, you should try it. I really think that you should try it. And here's what I'll do if you do this and do that. So trust me, I did not know by showing up to my brother's in-laws that I would meet this person, that me and them would be like, kindred and good friends, and that he would want to be my mentor and recommend this to me. I had no clue. So that's just an example of the same attitude, right? I showed up with an awesome attitude, regardless of what was going on in my life, whatever drama. And I just loved being there and just wanted to enjoy myself for what it was, even if I had to go back to somewhere where I didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow, was unsure. And Uncle Victor opened the door.
Yeah. Wow.
And it led to a whole bunch of other options that I just discussed in my architectural journey.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
you've got to be in it, up and ready for that kind of thing too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. My dad always talked about the way that you think, right? He said that school teaches you how to think, and I think in maybe early years a little bit, yeah, but less as you maybe go up, right, into college, etc. Right, for me, but I think that my dad had a lot of philosophies that he tried to instill, and every single dinner would kind of like be sharing his own philosophies on life with us. We've heard the phrase again and again. But sharing your philosophy, right? Like, I think it is, again, bringing people to that wholesome space that I think I'm landing on, that being where we need to all operate from. Like, my dad said, you be humble. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? Like, act like I don't know something, or I think that's a challenging thing to maybe say to a Black woman when it's like, people are talking over me, so, and I should be humble and wait. I don't know about that. But I think all of these things are pointing to something that's more fundamental, which is that, like, getting to a space where you're just being human and relating to people and trying to learn, or just showing up and being smart. Which, what does being smart mean? You've laid it out, right? It is learning to see, okay, where are the opportunities? What is the next thing that I need to learn? What can I offer? What am I asking of someone when I'm saying, can you give me a job, right? And what can you contribute, in order to not assume that you should just be given, right? But to actually build in value and contribute towards the thing that is what people are paying money for, right?
Correct.
Is the soul and heart of it. And I guess we started this section by talking about, like, how you found, like, how you find the statement of 9 through 12 education, right? And then kind of digging into like that, our shift more towards the academics, and history being a space where you actually learn how to analyze, right? And what people are taking away more from history, right? Which I think is, again, like that's the thing that I think we need to make clearer. You can analyze what's happening out there, but it's, you are still living your own life, and you should use that analysis to maybe just make you a little bit more smarter when you're like, okay, this thing is happening globally. But in actuality, right, that is just a way of synthesizing what's happening around you. What you're living in your day-to-day life is still just taking that step forward. And so what does academic give us? It can, at times, bring up moments where maybe when you are getting towards an opportunity where you are running something, or you're building a building, right? Like you are setting something up where you then can actually leverage, maybe there are moments where you leverage that academic knowledge, quote unquote, right? Or external academic knowledge that you're picking up in high school. Yeah, but it's not, these things don't show up with a bow wrapped around them. It's really tough, right? Like I actually struggled with it because I was like, I loved high school, just academics of it. And then college was like an eye-opening experience, because the college I went to was a research university, and it was not bringing in all of that holistic learning that we were kind of doing. It was just, okay, you are now building software, and yeah, I guess there wasn't as much holistic conversation about what was happening in the world. And yeah, so that was a difficult transition for me. And so I think we do need to analyze more about like those transitions and how to make them as valuable as possible, right? How to support students a bit more. Yeah, and also how to know, okay, like you're in history class, what is the thing that you're taking away, right? You are taking away a framework for how to analyze what happened, right? You are taking away knowledge of what has happened in the past and how systems work together. But at the end of the day, okay, what are you going to use this for? You'll use this for understanding the world around you. And yeah, just you'll use it for understanding the world around you a bit. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know, it won't always
getting back to where you are, right, and finding your center and what it all means to you, I think is the final, regardless of what you're learning, what does it mean to you, and what are you going to get up and do tomorrow about it, right? And oftentimes, history and culture, there are lots of things happening that you can't do anything about, regardless of your opinion. And what you can take from it is feel fortunate about the life and the position that you have, right? Because oftentimes you read through history, a lot of the hard things that people had to go through. And I'm like, sheesh, I just have to, deal with one jerk who might be browbeating me in school. I thought that, I was going through the most, and I learned about, either segregation or the Mau Mau rebellion, or it's so many different things that you can learn about. And not to take like anger from it, but it should cause you to appreciate the life that you have. And there have been many talented people and gifted people throughout time that never had the chance to live out that dream or bring whatever beautiful parts of them to the world. Their life was just cut off. And you should feel fortunate that you are alive and you have breath and you're doing things that your parents couldn't do and lots of people in life weren't able to do. I mean, like, just start there. The fact that you still are alive and have a chance. I mean, I read a lot of things in history. I'm like, man, I don't know what I would do with that volcano, tornado, riot, or, so many different things that happen. And I'm like, I just feel more fortunate about my life. And I feel like whatever it was I was looking for externally, It makes me return to the simplicity of my life. Let me make sure my bed is made. Let me make sure I cross my I's and dot my T's in my own life, right? So I think that whatever it is that you're learning or going through, you should then reflect on what it means to you, and what you need to do about it is take the time that you're given by God, because as we've seen through life, culture, and history, even now as we speak, life is finite, and regardless of how talented you are, whatever purpose you think is greater in life, it's just as easy to not have it tomorrow, because people better, smarter, more talented, and more beautiful than you have just passed away, right? So enjoy that walk with your two legs. Enjoy having feet. Enjoy walking outside. Enjoy that sun on your face. And whether your parents are the best parents in the world, be glad you even have those. Be glad you have siblings. Be glad just to be able to breathe. You know, I think that is what people should take from it, and that leads to you being happy with what you have. And the weight that you put on yourself for this ideal or this dollar amount doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, you have your life, you have people that love you, you make enough money to provide for yourself. Actually, there's no problem. There are no problems in your life. Actually, if you want more, there's more. And when you understand how money is made, you'll understand that money is a stream that happens all the time. And when you want some, when you know how to make it, you reach your hand out into that industry and you take some until you're full, and you pull your hand back and go and chill out. The concept of making money is just that simple. Once you are in control of, through licensing and your degree, you understand all these different ways to make money. And for every, again, like, let's use the doctor example, or even the lawyer example. Let's use a lawyer example. I'm not this lawyer on TV like I wanted to be. I'm doing research. I'm making good money. I do want some more money. Do you need to get 20 clients to go and research? No. You can keep the same 5 clients that you have and provide more services to the same 5 clients, right? And make more money per each interaction versus creating more traffic, right? Is something that I had to learn as well. So as a drafts person in architecture, man, I made $1,000 this week drafting this thing. If I take on 10 clients or 10 jobs, I can make 10,000. That's not the way to go. That job that you drafted needs to be filed. It needs to go to the city. Once construction starts, it needs to be inspected. So I have licenses that are involved in every aspect of design and construction. Before something is built, while they're working out the preliminary design phase, during approval to get the things approved, and during construction, I have different licenses to keep myself involved to do 3 or 4 different things for each project. So after a while, I was able to just work with one or two clients and provide a bunch of different services in a sequence, because I understood what needed to be done first, second, and third, right? In the order of getting it from a concept to actual people walking in and living in the structure. So it's finished. So from check to check, right? Completing the job, I knew what the phases were. Because I knew, based on my strengths, I got licensing and experience for different phases. So while people ran around with 10 or 20 different clients to multiply their income, I refined my business and got better at other aspects, so I was more valuable per project. So that's another concept that you can look at, and you can extrapolate that to, a lawyer. You do research and you write contracts. You know what I mean? Like, there are different things you can do to create more value for yourself, even at the same firm that you're at. Some people like, do I need to leave? And I'm like, no. How about you go and get Microsoft certified. Go and get certified by Microsoft for Excel, right? You're in this law firm. How about now you're their certified Excel expert, and you're preparing your lawyer's brief, like, that she has to prepare herself. You're starting to do templates for them outside of work. Like, you know what I mean? Some of your professionals, your principals, and those guys are leasing out your time to prepare, because you're competent enough. You've demonstrated that by working for them. and then you went and got certified in Excel, let's say, as opposed to trying to work for another firm or anything like that. You can create a skill that you know is needed and offer it to your boss as an independent contractor while still working the same job as an employee, let's say. And that's sort of what I did. I didn't break the arrangement that I had with my professors when they hired me. And the split was like 80-20. I didn't mind, but I said, when I bring a job now, the split is going to be a little bit different, right? So I'll keep doing your work as long as when I bring work, the split will be a little bit different. And then you allow me, because I'm bringing the job, I'm not asking you for a bigger cut. I'm asking you to take on more aspects of the job. Like, let me file it. Let me take all the inspection. Let me do the preliminary stuff, the existing drawings, so what's there. These were all things that I could do easily and well. So when I brought the client, I was like, you're in charge. The split is still going to be, I couldn't go crazy, like 80-20 now. I was like 60-40, right? 60 in your favor, you give me 40%. And I'll do even more I'll perform more aspects of this job, which saves you more money and it gives me more things to do. So each professor allowed me to do more. And the more that I did for them was the more they just sat back and they had me meeting their clients. Like meeting with the initial client to see what's needed, walk through the job site, prepare reports. That wasn't something that was a skill set taught in school. So I kind of turned into an owner's rep or a design professional's representative.
Yeah.
And made their life easier and they paid me for it.
Yeah, amazing.
It's like different levels. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was super helpful. I think we went through a lot. There's a lot of gems in there. And I think you've articulated things that like need to be stamped more, right? So in closing, is there anything that you would want to say to a kid who's currently in high school? They're just taking the academic classes. Final words.
There's an old saying that says, do what you're good at, and then you can do what you like, I think is one way to look at it. One thing I would part with. And if you're diligent, God will bless you, and just be open-minded enough to recognize your blessing when it's in front of you, because it's not going to look like what you think it's going to look like, right? Opportunity is not going to always come with, wrapped in gold. It may look grungy and it may look dingy, but it's still your opportunity and it's still a blessing. So I pray for that all the time, and I would wish that for all the young people. I pray to have the peace of mind and enough insight to recognize an opportunity and a blessing when it's in front of me. Because it's too easy to go past the mark, right? And miss your opportunity and not recognize a blessing for what it is, because it doesn't look like what you thought it should look like. So that's what I would say to children, any young people.
Awesome. That was awesome.